Welcome back to Trifecta Airsoft Podcast. I'm your host, E-Rock. This episode is sponsored by Skirmesh, Airsoft Connected. It's also sponsored by Jefe's Airsoft Solutions, a company that puts the airsoft community first. Thank you everyone for being here. Let's get to the podcast. All right, gentlemen, we are live on YouTube.
For everyone watching and who's going to be watching this, I'm Jefe with Jefe's Airsoft Solutions, and we're here to basically get the community involved and engaged in this collaborative project between my brand, Jefe Airsoft, and Skirmesh Airsoft with Brandon, as well as some backing with Bryan here, who's got some solid airsoft experience with Tac City. So before I get into specifics of what we're going to be doing with the project here, see, there's a bit of lag here. I want to go into like what our mission is and what we're looking to do in the community, because we strongly feel that airsoft is a hobby. So first of all, it's a people thing. You go there to meet people, you go there to build connections. And like I said earlier, it happens more off the field than on the field. So you're talking with your friends about airsoft, you're listening to this podcast, you're doing airsoft. So our mission here is to offer a way for players of all types just to get the greatest experience possible. And we're going to do that through building a safe atmosphere, strong community connections, and putting the players first. We're trying to listen to what the players want. How do the players want the field to be? You know, our ear is right directly to the ground, and we want to build this field and build our business around what the players want, because we've seen a lot of fields around the country and around the area to where you come in, you pay, and then they send you on your way, and you're out there. The field might be run down, or the management's not really up to par, and they're not really in it for the people, they're in it for the money. So that's where we're taking this, and we're flipping that approach. We want to offer you an experience, not an airsoft game. You know, we want you to come here to do something, to come here to connect with people, and not just spend money. You can spend money if you want, but you know, you're here to make friends. So this is kind of who we are. Again, I'm Jefe. I started Jefe's Airsoft Solutions back in 2021. Next in our team, we have Bryan here. He's an investor, a big part of our project, and he's a formal manager of Tac City. Bryan, do you want to give a little bit of information about yourself and your airsoft background?
My background in airsoft began with my son wanting to play, and kind of brought me into the community. And in time, that ended up growing to where I became the general manager for Tac City, for both Tac City Fullerton, which used to be referred to as Tac City South, because we opened up a Tac City North, which was open for a few years. I ran both of those locations and worked with the owner to bring in a lot of special events and player-focused, player-centric type of philosophy there with the field. Obviously, the owner is very versed in it and very player-centric himself. So it was an easy meld between the two of us. And since then, I've gone on and had more of a focus on real steel training and CHL training. But love the idea of being involved with this project. Love the idea of doing airsoft fields that are by players, for players, with the player in focus and player experience at the forefront. And that's the reason why I'm so interested in this project. And I think that it's going to help, especially with the fantastic addition of Skirmesh. It's going to help revolutionize the way that airsoft is not only played, but as we were referring to earlier, is also viewed from a spectator's perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Brian. The next person on our team here is Brandon with Skirmesh. And he's going to tell you about his revolutionary system and how we're going to set the new standard of airsoft.
Yeah, guys. So, a lot like Bryan, like I got back into airsoft, when my son was kind of age and we're finding something to do. So, wanted to take him out somewhere we could play, and speaking to the culture and the community aspect of things. We go to play at fields, and there's a very big difference between fields that sort of kind of, have that inclusive atmosphere where everybody can play and have a good time, and then others where you're out there to get absolutely murdered. So, Jeff is looking to build a field that is, kind of a welcoming place where everybody can go. And, I appreciate the vision, so I want to kind of support it. I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about what Skirmesh does throughout the podcast, but at a high level, it's really all about knowing what you did out there on the field. So, and enabling fields to run more creative and compelling games that give people more to do when you're out there and more to take away when you leave. So,
Thanks, Brandon. So that's our team, me, Jefe, Bryan, Brandon, and obviously we can't do this without you guys, the players and the supporters. Like Bryan said, we're going to build this team by the players, and we're going to build it for the players. It's going to be a player-focused field, and that takes the community's involvement to make that happen. All right, so next, this is our values here and what our brand is all about. So first and foremost, we actually care. We are going to build this field, and it's going to be a reflection of our mission and our values within the community. And we're here to welcome everyone. So all types of players, if you're new, if you're old, if you've been playing Speedsoft or Milsim, whatever you want to play as, this is Airsoft. You're here to express yourself. So you should be able to go to a field and play how you want to play and express yourself. And third here, we listen to what you guys have to say. If you guys don't like a certain aspect about the field, or you think something could be better, let us know. And we're always looking for ways to make it better for you guys and to make the experience overall better. We're not just here just to open the field and just start a business. We're here to grow a community. The big announcement here is we're opening an airsoft field, an outdoor field here in Southeast Florida. Right now we're targeting Palm Beach County. So the reason we targeted Palm Beach County is because everyone knows about Miami Airsoft if you're in this area. That's all the way down the south tip of Florida. Then there's a couple outdoor fields in that area. The reason that we're not choosing that is one, because there's already 2 fields, but 2, the land there is like all swamp and marshy, so it's not a great environment to be in, especially if it's undeveloped. It's really rough. It's like a jungle basically. And then there's really nothing from Miami all the way up to like, I want to say Palm Bay. If you're not familiar with that, that's like 3 hours north. So there's a gap essentially, and we're trying to fill that gap in Palm Beach County. And we chose outdoor because the owners of Miami Airsoft have been working on opening an indoor arena in that same area. So it'll be a good complement to have an outdoor and an indoor field in the same vicinity, the way it has been down here when there's Miami Airsoft indoors and there's those 2 outdoor fields. It just essentially grows the sport, and it allows players to try new things. Whether they like playing indoor or outdoors more, they're going to find out. And then at the same time, they're going to find out that maybe some fields are ran a little bit better. Maybe the community is a little bit better other places. So it really helps them try new things, like Bryan was saying, and grow our community as a whole.
So Airsoft Dad has a question. So he's asking, are we going to allow paintball, and does the Skirmesh work with both airsoft and paintball? So the Skirmesh question is easy. Yes, it does work for airsoft or paintball. And then I guess, Jeff, you could take the other question, but the short answer would be that, the initial focus will be on airsoft, but there's no reason
Right,
to cut out
absolutely.
paintball.
Yeah, so we're going to be an airsoft field. If people want to do paintball, um, we'll consider it. Like I said, we're always open to what people want. But we're going to be focusing on airsoft. For the younger crowd, we're going to focus on jelly blasters and Nerf. That's super easy. It doesn't mess up the field and layer the field with paint. Like we've all been to some fields that are just gross and they're just covered in that thick paint for the paintball players. So in order to maintain our field better, we're going to focus on airsoft. But if occasional paintball players want to come and do a private party or something, then we would be open to it.
I've heard a couple of people talk about that at different fields. They've gone to that they'll have like for the kids' birthday parties, they'll have that instead of airsoft or paintball.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good alternative.
Yeah, gel blasters are fantastic for the younger crowd.
Right.
And honestly, they're a lot of fun for adults too, if you just want to care a little bit less and walk away a little bit less scathed.
Right.
Actually,
less.
So Airsoft Dad mentioned, he's okay with airsoft only, but I'm actually kind of curious for the crowd even, and maybe for you guys too, like, obviously like this is an airsoft podcast, but, why would other than keeping it clean, Airsoft Dad, like why else would airsoft only be good for you?
You mean like why not, or
yeah, like
why we don't have paintball kind of thing or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
not necessarily for us to answer, but what is what else besides the filth is the downsides to paintball?
Right. Most airsofters I've talked with are former paintballers, and not the other way around. You know what I mean? So they've gone from paintball to airsoft, and there's way more pros to airsoft that keep them there, as opposed to like they go over to airsoft and like, it's okay, but I went back to paintball. Like most people don't do that. And the mess is a big part of that. That's what I've heard across the board is how freaking messy it is when you get in your car on a hot day and your clothes are covered. And I mean, unless you stand out by your car and just like strip down and change, there's not an easy way to deal with that with all that paint.
Yeah. We talked about this when I was on your podcast last, and for me it was I feel like the playing field is much more level on airsoft, regardless of how expensive your equipment is or your gun is. Like the rate of fire is probably the one thing that you don't really have that edge on, but most people don't run around at like full auto. So, paintball, man, if you spend a little bit of extra money, like you can just destroy whoever you're out there with.
Well, of course, the difference is HPA. I mean, I think the constant air versus HPA is a good analog or analogy for each other, right? And I think that's one of those things, especially when you're focused on trying to do milsim and that type of thing, kind of keeping like an HPA system out of the works, right? Because it really does change the dynamic of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the rate of fire, but airsoft is really, it's such a tight window on FPS. Everybody's like really in that 375 range, like really tight up against 400 if that's the limit of the field, or really tight at 350 if that's the limit of fields for like indoor fields. So that makes it easy to be a rental guy and not just get completely mauled by the guys that have put thousands of dollars into their gear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially the rule set of the field can really help even it out. Like you can limit the RPS that's allowed, so people aren't, if they're spamming, they're not doing like 40 rounds per second. Versus this little kid who's got this rental who's just starting out, he's not gonna have a good time. So I know some fields have an RPS limit. That combined with the jewel limit really kind of evens out that aspect of the game for sure.
Well, and then proper refereeing as well, right? Which is more to the point of what I think Brandon was saying earlier about skirmish is, having the skirmish platform allows the people that are running the game to be more focused on the game, on safety and aspects like, feathering of the trigger and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Because
100%.
again, if you're trying to emulate, whether it's a CQB or a milsim, if you're trying to essentially replicate combat, right, there is no feathering of the trigger. That just doesn't. That's not occurring. So being able to have a better focus on the game, and again, this comes from running a field, right? Watching these things, watching these, like you said, the rental customers, which, everyone wants to talk sometimes a lot, crap about the rental customers, but most of our community began as a rental customer. And as a former field manager, I would argue that rental customers represent some of the most important aspects of our community, because it's what's going to continue our community when people age out or when other things, catch their attention. We need that new influx of new players. And I think encouraging rental customers to be a part of it and to play and to not be dominated by the people like Brandon said that can dump $5,000 into their setup is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, and that's why offering like premium rentals is definitely going to help increase the experience of these newer players, because then they'll have even better chances of going against people with the super custom builds. So they'll be right there with them, and they'll probably want to come back because they had a blast and they weren't just getting destroyed. If you didn't see, I just kind of gave a brief history on the slide before. Basically, we're new. So I started my Discord server in 2021, and then 2022 I had the official store, and now 2023 I'm hosting events. So we've gained this momentum. We've built these stepping stones that we're going on, and now because we've taken all those steps before, we've gained tons of supporters. Like everyone here in the chat, all the people in the Discord, on YouTube, Facebook, everyone here has supported, at least just by liking or watching the content. That helps more than anything, really. So we've gained this momentum, and we're ready to change the way Airsoft is played. And that's going to be primarily through the skirmish system and the way that we manage and present our field. So I kind of touched on this earlier, where people usually play down in Miami Airsoft. There's the owners of Miami Airsoft are opening Palm Beach Airsoft, which is in West Palm Beach. So that's kind of 2 hours northish of Miami. And then the BB Ranch and Matrix Airsoft are the outdoor fields south of Miami. The last one here, Palm Bay Paintball, I've heard that they used to have Airsoft there, like a third party. They would just have a group and they would play there. But recently, the owners of that field kicked them out, and now they're hosting their own Airsoft. So that's just something to be aware of. If you play in Palm Bay, they're basically under new management for the Airsoft scene there, and whoever was running the Airsoft scene there is looking for a new place to host their events. So, and that is 2 hours north of me, 2.5, so maybe about 3.5 from Miami. So, like I said earlier, we're in that really sweet spot where there's no fields near us. Well, no outdoor fields near us. So some of the things that's going to give us the advantage over the other fields in the area is our direct line of communication. I am incredibly easy to get a hold of through Instagram or Facebook or Discord, and I'm always talking to people. I showed Iraq and Brandon earlier all the servers that I'm in. I'm constantly, even if I'm not messaging, I'm just watching. I'm just lurking and seeing, what people are talking about, what do people want, what are their complaints. So we're easy to get a hold of, and we're easy to say. It's easy for you guys to come to us and say what's not working or what could be better. And between Brandon, myself, and Bryan, we have a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. I've played at a ton of different fields up in New York, Pennsylvania, down here in Florida. Brandon has traveled to different fields across the country and set up his system. So he has that diversity experience for him to see what other fields are doing. And then Bryan he's run fields, so he knows what works and what doesn't. And touching here the advanced in-game technology, this is where I want to hand it off to Skirmish system and kind of give an idea of how that's going to set the new standard of play. So, Brandon, if you want to go ahead and just give a little bit more overview of what your system is.
Yeah, no problem. So, I mentioned earlier, I think Airsoft Dad was asking about it. So our primary focus is to, you know, what the players get is great, right? We give them stats and sort of a stat roll up, and we give them a play-by-play. But that's not like why Skirmish was developed. I developed Skirmish because I would go to these major events and pay hundreds of dollars to go and do this thing. And, kind of like E-Rock has said, right, at the end of it, like you don't know what happened. Like nobody can tell you just what happened. And so a friend of mine and I were just kind of thinking about it, and like, hey, we can figure this out. We can do this, right? So the primary motivation was not to develop like a leaderboard, not to develop stats on somebody's page, but it was just to tell somebody what happened in that game. And as we set out to do it, what that really ended up looking like was like, okay, we need to give fields the tools that they need to set up elaborate games with very little overhead, very little staff involvement, that would actually recover what happened, and not just at like a high level, but like at a kind of a detail level. So like what player did what. And so that's sort of the motivation behind it. All right, so everybody can see this now, and this is exciting. Oregon Airsoft is playing, and looks like they're playing domination. So if you guys that are watching, this is a live game. I didn't do this. This is live on the website right now. So they've got two teams playing. This is the sort of the live score going on. They don't have a lot of players involved, but they've got two teams. They've got a red and a blue. Each one of these areas that I hover over are territories that are represented by a skirmish sensor. And so as they're fighting back and forth, not only do you get to see in real time as they take over the map, it turns the color of their team, but also we've got, point bars here so that you can see like who in real time is doing what. Okay, yeah, so red just took over this little saloon area here. You can see it flashing on the left. And then, each time a player, does something, it'll show up in their score over here. So let me stack it so it's a little bit cleaner. But you can see like, there we go. You can see like who's doing what, like their name, like when they did something, how many deaths that they've got, how many points they've accumulated, so like Hannah's like really crushing it here. She's out in front with 21 points. And now they've taken over the back. So you can see them in real time. They're sneaking around the backside, trying to surround the blue team, it looks like, who's maybe stuffed in the middle here. So I think it's great. You can't get this kind of stuff on any other system. So this is
imagine this on like a large scale.
This is the only way to watch Airsoft right here, like in real time.
Yeah, this is real time.
Nobody else offers this.
Somebody touched a physical thing in Oregon. Yeah, I'm sitting in my house in Boston, Massachusetts, and the live updates on the web. And this is like totally applicable to these large outdoor fields of, like you can just imagine like this amazing battle map where you're just progressing in blue. Yeah, I mean, this is a great one. This is a great example. This really worked out because it's very active. So anyways, this is sort of the end result of what you get, and you get exactly what happened, who did it. There's a play-by-play for everything that happened, when it happened, down to the second. I can tell you exactly when everybody did anything. And so this is sort of the power of Skirmish. And over 9,677 games played on Skirmish, and you can rewatch any of those games at any time. So that's awesome. But what I promised and what I got kind of going on, and I've already probably killed the 5 minutes I promised to, was
it's okay.
I'm going to go. So what happens is, so fields make like game configurations is what I call it, and they can make like as many as they want. I just have 2 here for like my demo setup. But what they do is they come in here and they'll have several maps most likely. But here's the Balahack map that we used, which is just a fantastic map.
Holy cow! Now on that map, Brandon, are those so the arrows you have pointing with the tags?
Yeah, those
with
were
the
all
titles. Those are
Yep.
boxes
Yeah, those were all locations. Yeah, set up
with
so.
boxes on them.
Yeah, so it's about a quarter mile from top to bottom of this map, so it's
Yeah.
massive.
Now every single box registers in real time while they're playing
in
on
real
the
time.
website for somebody to watch.
Yep.
Now, how does
everyone-
this box that's farthest away from the first one? So, how does that work? Like, just the first one has to be on Wi-Fi or something?
That's right. So yeah,
Okay.
it's a self-healing mesh network that is created by the boxes, it runs on a frequency that's similar to Wi-Fi, but it's not Wi-Fi. These don't use Wi-Fi to communicate. So what'll happen is as long as this is Balahack, and they call it the barn, but this area here is where they have like all their retail shop, and then they've got those are where their internet would be. So you'd put one box here, which would be like the box that connects to the internet, and nobody would interact with that. It just serves as a gateway to the internet for the rest of the system. And then that'll project to the first few boxes. It'll probably reach out to these in this area here, which would connect directly to that box. But then everyone after that relays off of its friends or neighbors. So this box that's way up here to the north would actually communicate through each one of these and find its way to the internet there. So they don't necessarily need to all talk to this box, but they just need to be within range of their nearest box.
And if somebody has one of the bracelets, if they just go to the field that already has the system in place, then they slap their bracelet on, right? And then they go out there, especially if it's already registered on your website. Once you get your bracelet, you register it, and then you can track your leaderboard stuff. You go out there and you tap in for the setup of the game, and then you go play.
Yeah,
right.
That's it.
You don't have to worry about it. You just tap the boxes as you go to take over points or whatever, and it's all
and it follows. It follows you. So anytime you go to any field you go to that has Skirmesh, which I guess there's technically 10 right now. There's 9 sort of different fields. Really, I guess 8 fields and 2 clubs that use it right now.
Nice.
But yeah, so I mean, we can cover this. I think this was 23 territories. But we could cover really an infinite amount of space if you wanted to do that. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a territory. It could be like an object. It could be like a bus. So we don't need to like draw this whole area. But this is sort of the closest thing to what like Call of Duty and stuff like that do. So that you can imagine that this area is just being slowly taken over by a color, and you can just sort of see that battle map just sort of flow back and forth as people are doing different things. But what I wanted to show a couple things, I guess, real quick. So one of the things that we're able to do because of the way we control the game is we can actually limit your ability to respawn. So people don't, you can include that as part of a game mechanic where people don't just have like this ability to run wild out there in the front lines and like die as many times as they think they need to in order to just kind of like keep pushing that. But you can make them think more about like, hey, their life matters, and they have to think more strategically about how they play and really like work as a team and include that as part of like how they progress in the game instead of just kind of going out there and being wild. So that kind of helps sort of solidify that like, hey, let's really like be tactical, think about what we're doing and change the game a little bit. And then, there's some options about sharing the respawns with your team if you want to do it that way. So instead of just like individually limiting them, you can limit them as a pool with the rest of your team. And then there's like a fun mode where you can actually put points on the map to where like if they could take over that area, they would restore lives to their team. So it gives kind of a reward to the guys that are out there doing stuff. The other kind of pretty fun thing is we don't, most games you're going to see are going to be 2 teams, but we don't limit it to 2 teams. You can have as many teams as you want. 100 teams would be ridiculous, but you could do as much, as many as you want, which is like makes us really stand out against other people that are trying to do very similar things. And that you could scale it to as many teams as you want, and it can be any color that you want as well. Like any color. I don't know if this shows up or not, but you can see like you can pick any color that you want for the team to be. But anyway, so that's kind of the team stuff. But the sort of interesting thing is down here, each one of these is the device, and it represents all the different things that it can be at any one time on the field. So I mentioned the collection point earlier on, which is like you could collect lives or just collect points generally, or you could it'd be analogous to like collecting gold from a bank vault or whatever if you're doing, heist type games. It can work as like a medic station, which will track if you need like if you have like a cooldown time for the medic where you could track that directly, or you could do 0, which would be like an instant respawn. The other kind of fun thing that we do is we enable this infection mode, which basically says, think of games like Zombie or like Dodgeball, where like if you kill someone on another team, then they now come to your team and play for your team. So when you medic at these points, it'll move you to whatever team this is set up for. So like you can get like a very interactive like Dodgeball type game, or like Zombie or whatever you would need to like move people around different teams for. You can do that. Each one of them can be a bomb. So like the obvious stuff here. So arming it, you got an arm time, you got a fuse, and you got a defuse time. And then the most used one is this capture point. And so it's not like a switch. Like a lot of people will see like, oh, I just like touch a button and now blue team has it, or I touch a button and now yellow team has it. It's much more complex than that. So we capture stabilization, in that you have to take it and you have to actually protect and hold the objective for the amount of time that it takes to stabilize the objective. And that's configurable up to like, really long times or very short times. Then we also allow people to delay the first capture. And the concept there is like, okay, if you just start the game and you're fighting over all these objectives that are not owned by people, if you're the first one there, do you owe that stabilization time or not? And that's just a question of, whoever's making the game, if they want to make that a rule or not. But we allow that to, flexibility to choose. And then we also have this assist percentage, which is, let's say that there's a 5-minute stabilization and there's a 20% assist percentage. So if I come in there with a friend and I take the objective, and then my friend also helps me take that objective, I'll reduce that time by 20%, in this case, a minute, which is awesome. So it encourages teamwork and those sorts of things. And one of the things I like to tell the fields that, just as like hey, here's a way you can use Skirmesh to just get creative, is I could set the stabilization to something very high that's not really realistic or achievable. Like nobody's going to wait 40 minutes to stabilize an objective. But if you brought a full squad, let's say like at 25% each, if I bring me and four buddies, then I can actually stabilize that. So the only way to win is to work as a team, work with your squad, and like really come in there and stabilize the objective. And so you can just really encourage different types of gameplay, or influence the type of gameplay that you want to see played by just manipulating the system with different things like this. Then there's
that team thing you just brought up with taking over an objective with multiple people. That's a really important thing, because, in my opinion, because the most of the milsims that I've heard of and seen, they'll have a timer. And they have a box, right, that's like connect to a timer or whatever, and that's how they gain their points for their team. Mm-hmm. So the whole tan team, the whole green team, might be 300 people in each team, but one person flips a switch in that box. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, they got to stand there and kind of hold the box, but there's no benefit for them having more team members in there to hold that, to make it go faster, where they get more points quicker, that kind of thing. And this is the only thing that does that so far.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll see that a lot of the things that we try to do are support tactics and teamwork over the individual. So it's all about just really encouraging them to really embrace like the gameplay over just killing the other team, right? Just like blindly mauling the other team for whatever, getting kills for whatever, lack of a better phrase. But so it's all about that. Like, how do you encourage people to really embrace the sport, like get involved and like really think tactically and do all the things that most people are kind of interested in doing anyway. And then the last thing that the capture points can do is they can serve as a forward medic outpost. So it encourages people to say, hey, if you capture this objective, now not only do you own it as, is it earning your team points for holding that territory, but now you actually have an additional place to respawn. So you don't necessarily have to go all the way back to like, the original spawn or whatever. So that's something you can do, and you can speckle those throughout to give people just different reasons to like pursue objectives. So
you and Jeff for Jefe's Airsoft Solutions, you guys recently kind of collaborated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like talked. You guys met through this podcast, basically, or found out about each other through this podcast. And Jefe, for anyone new that's just joining in the chat, what you're doing is a kind of a presentation of your collaboration with Brandon from Skirmesh, right? And Bryan, and you guys are all getting together and going to be opening a field in Florida, and you're going to be incorporating the Skirmesh system. And then Bryan has a background in field ownership. He used to run Tac City, and then you guys are going to be, so right from day one, you're going to have Skirmesh at your field, and you're going to be incorporating a lot of these different things that you talked about earlier. If you want to recap, like a quick overview of your bullet points of just for anyone that, because there's been a few people that has joined just in the last like 5 minutes.
Let me give you the share back, Jeff, real quick.
Hold on real quick too while he's doing that. If I can, this is Bryan again. So not field ownership, field management. The owner of Tac
My
City
bad. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying the owner of Tac City would take exception to that. Trust me. But yeah, I think in Brandon, if you don't mind me saying this, I think the goal is to make our project the gold standard for what a skirmish airsoft field should be. Right? To show it off.
I would say just airsoft field generally. I would love for skirmish to be a part of that standard, but yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, Bryan, but yeah, appreciate it.
Well, I honestly think that like Jefe was saying earlier, this is the next evolution of airsoft, really, right? And I think the two go hand in hand. I think our player focused mentality, but I think the skirmish concept and component is key to that, because as you just spent a great amount of detail explaining, the robustness of what airsoft is. This is, not to be cliche, but this is a game changer.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. We're here to show what airsoft can be and what it should be. So we're gonna have this beautiful system from Skirmish here, and the way we're gonna run the games is you're gonna not waiting 30 minutes to play a game. We've all been at some fields to where you play like a 10-minute game and then you're done and you gotta wait 20-30 minutes for your next game. So that's really frustrating. So with Skirmish, we can run the games efficiently. We can have the scoreboard and everything up. We can announce the next game mode. We can get things going really quickly, and we'll be able to keep players engaged even when they're not playing. They'll be able to watch the game too. So you're still there, you're still participating, you're still active, even though you're not necessarily playing. So say we have, a lot of people one day, we're gonna have to do different rounds, so not everyone can play at once. So this is a great way for you to, even in events too, to see what's going on. Is this team good, or should we be better? What's their strategy? You can kind of see what patterns they take and what objectives they take. So it's just another way to bring it closer to, video games. I think a lot of people started playing airsoft because of video games, and this is another way to bridge that gap, because there's never a way for you to see a leaderboard or a playback or any sort of map, and this is exactly what the future of airsoft is going to be.
Yeah, I wish I could remember exactly how Airsoft Dad said it, but I watched his podcast and I like completely appreciate. I think he was just kind of going over the background of how he became Airsoft Dad, and how he sort of like looks over the crowd and just sees people that are maybe not having the best of time, or maybe just are not really sure which way is up, right? But they're trying to have a good time, and just sort of like takes them under his wing and shows them the ropes a bit. As somebody that's started, taking my kids that basically as soon as they were old enough to get out there to have a good time on the field. That's definitely important for me too at the field, is just to have, I want people to shoot my kids for sure. I don't want them to have a free pass, but I also don't want
with
them
airsoft guns.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
That sounds so bad, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in the context. All right. Yeah. So, but the point is, I don't want them to have a free pass, but I want them to also I want them to also be the environment where people are like, hey man, like let's, drive on to, let's get out from behind this bunker. Let's go push that. Let's get out of your comfort zone. Let's go have this fun, but also not just make them the reason that they're having fun, right? Not, I don't want people to, walk off the field and you see all those 12-year-olds I just destroyed. And it's well, that's probably funny to them, but it's not fun for everybody. So, but the kind of environment where you're, everybody's just sort of reaching out, hey, let's have a good time. Let's push this thing. Let's go hard.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play as a team. Let's engage everybody. That's very important. And it's just a much more fun too when you're playing that environment. Wait, is somebody announcing an engagement in the YouTube chat?
No, they're asking OT because the podcast that came out a few days ago,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. OT and Dana, they got engaged, or they announced their engagement on my podcast.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you know you're big time.
See, yeah, Iraq, you're literally bringing people together. You're joining.
I know, right? No, they didn't find each other through this podcast, but it was I was honored, man, when they did it. So I was surprised.
Scarsoft's telling somebody congrats. Whoever that is, he said, I don't know. So you should demand that E-Rock be the MC at your wedding when you guys actually have it. I would love to see that.
Right. Yeah, he's telling Mr. OT, congratulations on the engagement, because they're both in the chat. Dana and Mr. OT, they're in the chat right now. So they're the ones that got engaged.
So Mr. OT, E-Rock, Master of Ceremonies.
Oh, I'm going to be at his wedding. He invited me to the wedding on the podcast. So, and he's not too far away. They're in Tennessee.
Okay.
So when it should be. Yeah, and whenever they decide to actually have the ceremony, I'm going to go out there.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Master of Ceremonies.
I'm going to live stream it.
Yeah, I was going to say you should definitely live stream that. The only thing I want to touch on for this was just that our initial plan here is to build a Nuketown, the Call of Duty map. That's kind of what our vision is we want to get the field open, and then we want to replicate this map. And the way, if we can have this map with the system that ties together, then that's, again, bridging that gap between airsoft and video games. And that's providing that extra layer of immersion or engagement. So that's kind of this is our roadmap here. And with your guys' help and support, we'll get our field open. We'll get our physical location. You guys can come and say hi or just hang out. And then once we get things rolling, we'll be able to build the Nuketown map and really elevate our experience even more. And once we get that, then we can expand. We can have multiple smaller maps to where we can have multiple games at once, or we can open it up for an event and have the 2 maps as in one field layout. So our goal is to have a variety of places. So if you don't like playing one style, you can still come and play with us. We'll have a different area for you to play in. Like that Speedsoft Milsim kind of division there is we'll be able to offer all play styles.
So we got a couple questions in. It's probably good for you to answer these, Jeff. But so Lucas asked if there will be designations for higher FPS guns like rifleman, DMR, sniper, machine gunner.
Yeah, that's kind of going to be more specific on the size of the field we can get. So if we have this huge open area field, then absolutely we're going to be able to incorporate rules to where you can bring in your sniper or your DMR build. And if you just want to sit in the back and snipe people all day and that's how you enjoy airsoft, then we want to be able to provide that for you.
And then the follow-up or a separate question was, so it says, Jefe, you say you want to make sure everybody has fun, but what if there are so many people that people have to sit out more than one game?
And that's where a lot of challenges arise with fields, and Bryan can definitely help us steer in the right direction with his experience in the high volume management, but we're going to be implementing some systems and organizational strength to really roll games out one after another so there's not much downtime. So say we have 60 players one day. These are just numbers I'm making up here, and we can only fit, 30 people on a field. So that means there's going to be 30 people playing, 30 people sitting. So we'll try and prep the next 30 people who aren't playing. We'll prep them, get them ready to go. So as soon as the people who are playing are done, they can get right out there, get right to the spawn, and as soon as everyone's scanned in, we can start. So you're not really going to be waiting 30, 40 minutes between games just because
let me touch on that too, because that is something that, I have a lot of experience with.
Yeah.
That concept of I'm wasting so much time waiting around. Honestly, if you're playing the game right, you need that downtime, right? That downtime in between sets is a welcome opportunity to reload, to rehydrate, to kind of shake off the adrenaline dump. It is something that it's not wasted time, and if it's managed properly, right, there should be, as Jefe was saying, there should be a nice cycling of uptime and downtime. And by the time you're like ready to rock and roll for the next set, it should be time to go up again, right? And yeah, there are those people who want to just constantly run the entire day or what have you, but that's just not a realistic expectation for many reasons. So I don't think there'll be a lot of actual downtime. I think that downtime, quote unquote, will be time that's spent reloading, rehydrating, and refreshing, and just being ready for the next set.
So the main purpose of this presentation was to let everyone know who we are and what we're trying to do. And we're trying to spread awareness of what Airsoft should be and how we're going to help it get there. But we can't do it alone, and we want to engage the community to, like we said before, we've said this many times, we want to build a field, by the players, for the players. We want to focus on the players and their experience. So these are ways that if you're local or if you're across the country, there's still ways for you to help us out. So we do have a GoFundMe, and we're targeting about $75,000. That's just to get us to develop the actual playing area. So to build those new town buildings and to get the netting and to get the actual structures and to get the quality materials that aren't going to break down after a few months out in the sun and the rain. So we want to be able to build a quality place to play, because we've all been to fields to where, they'll put up plywood and they won't like treat it with weather coating or anything, and it's cracking, or there's holes in it from the BBs and it's splintering or it's falling off the poles. Like, that's not something we want to do. We want to make it so you're not focused on trying not to get hurt by the obstacles, but focus on trying to play the game. So that's how we can get the community engaged, is through donations here. So I'm going to run through these donation tiers here. So if you're local,
real quick, I want to correct one thing. It's not a donation; it's a contribution, right? We're not a
right,
just in case there's any legal eagles out there. We're not a 501c3, but this is a contribution to making this field a reality and having a part in and a stake in the creation of it.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Bryan. So if you want to make a contribution, here are a few ways that you can contribute to our project and to our goal, and how you can get something in return, also being a part of it. So any donation or any contribution will get you your name on the field. So we'll have a big thank you sign, plaque, poster, whatever we decide to do, but it's going to be a big thank you, and it's going to have every single person who supported us on our mission here. So you can come and you can play. You can say, hey, look, my name's here. I helped build this place. I contributed to the project and to the community here. So that's something that, I think is going to help deeply engage people, and they can bring their friends and say, look what I helped build. This is something I did. So a step further there, $25 or more, you're going to get your social media up there, maybe a QR code or your YouTube or Instagram handles along with your name. So you could say, John Doe from this place. Well, who is that? Then you could scan it and say, oh, he's this guy. His Instagram is this. His YouTube is this. He makes some pretty cool stuff. And maybe you'll even see him at the field. So it's a good way to build those connections with other players. So stepping it up here is $50 or more will get you free admission for your first game, plus your name and your donations there. So this is basically just saying, you've done enough to where you can come in and you can show up and you can say you helped and you're ready to go. You're here to play. And then doubling it here, you'll get $100. You'll get the same thing, your name, you'll get your social media up there, and you'll be able to play for 2 free games there. And again, adequate supplies and materials are also welcome. That helps just as much as your contributions. So stepping up for level 2 for the local contribution list here. Get the slide to change. Here we go. So this is something if you really want to get involved and you really want to help speed this along or make an impact here. So $200, $250 or more will get you a monthly membership, 6 months of store discounts, and a deluxe patch. So the details on the membership are still to be finalized. That's going to determine on the actual location we can physically lock in, and then the upfront cost of what's going to cost us to be able to provide the service for you. But you're gonna lock in a free month membership for that, as well as your store discounts. And the deluxe patch is going to be exclusively for contributors. No one else is going to be able to get it, not even the brand ambassadors or helpers off the field. Only by contributing to this project, you'll be able to get this patch. So I'm actually really excited about that. The same guys who made Brandon's gloves are going to be producing this patch too. So it's another way that we've strengthened our connections with each other is by sourcing from the same textile guy, the same patch and swag maker. So taking up a step further, 500 or more, you'll get that 3-month membership, a full year discount. You'll have early access to the field. So we're going to do a bunch of soft openings to test out the skirmish system, to test out our organizational structures, and really just see how we can make it the most effective systems possible to be able to fully launch our experience. And you also get a free hoodie and patch. And lastly here, if you want to be an absolute baller and help us out a ton, you'll get a whole year membership, lifetime store discounts, as well as early access to soft openings and private marketing events with your swag care package. Just touching up on the private marketing events, this is something that we're going to be doing. It's going to be invite only. It's going to be basically, we're going to invite a bunch of people who are well known within the Airsoft community or influential within their local communities. We're going to have a big event, a whole weekend, where we're going to do a lot of private games, a lot of exposure to our field and our system, and a good way to develop this content for us to publish and to show you guys what we're about. So if you're going to be a baller and donate or contribute that much to us, you'll be able to get the private invite to these events here.
And I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to double that up and do 2,000, not only do you get all of that, but one of the 3 of us will dance for you. I mean, I'm not going to say who, But
And
If it's paid in
know,
singles,
E-Rock
then we might
and
pay it
E-Rock will
separately.
MC your wedding.
exactly. But you have to
Yeah,
announce your engagement on his channel.
That's right.
right. You can
Yeah,
host your
announce the
wedding at our
engagement.
field.
Yeah, at the field on the podcast, and then I will live stream and MC the wedding.
There
I'll
you
pay
go.
to see
Plus,
that.
plus you get the dance too. So I mean, I'm just saying,
So
2,000. That's money well spent.
dance in a bikini, G-string. What are we talking
I,
here?
I would
I
say it's
mean,
their choice.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it's their choice, that's Jefe dancing. But I mean, I can see. I could see us rocking a tutu.
Whatever they're into, we'll make it happen. That's what we're about.
I mean, I look good naked, so let's go.
That's good to hear. Write that down. All right, so these last two slides here are for people who are not going to be able to come to us, and if you're across the country or you're a few states away, you can still make a contribution and make an impact by contributing here. So again, any donation or contribution is going to get your name on that big thank you sign and welcome plaque that we're going to display. So you'll be right up there with the rest of us. 25 more, it's the same thing. You'll get your name and your social media up there. 50, the same thing. You'll get your name, social media, and that deluxe patch that'll be mailed right to you. I might include a little love note in there for you too, autographed there, but that's a secret. And the third tier here for cyber is something a little different here is a free shout out across all of our social media platforms. So if you're not familiar with us or my platform, I have a large following when it comes to YouTube, a huge Discord server, as well as a growing Facebook and Instagram crowd. So you'll be able to get your thank you there and a way for you to grow your social medias and your channels by getting that exposure. And again, you'll get the deluxe secret patch. All right, the last slide here is the level 2 for the cyber tiers. Get that. There it is. So at the first level here, 250 or more, you're going to get a free hoodie, a beanie, as well as 6 months of online store discounts, included, and as well as the secret deluxe patch there. So when it comes to the hoodie and beanie, you're going to have a choice between different colors and sizes. So we'll be able to match to, whatever you want to do. If you want to do all black, all white, or combinations of either one, we'll be able to communicate that and get you exactly what you want. So the next step here for 500 or more, you'll get your hoodie, you'll get your beanie, you'll get a full year of online store discounts, you'll get your deluxe patch, and something that is pretty unique to what we can do is an advertising ping for your social medias in our server. So I think we just reached 1,000 players in our Discord server. So that's pretty awesome. So what the ping is if you make a post on YouTube or Instagram, we can have our bots do a ping and say, at new video ping, so-and-so posted a video. So you're going to, again, get that direct exposure to your channels and to your social medias, which will, again, help you grow your channels and your presence, as well as connect with fellow Airsoft players. And then the big baller status here with $1,000 or more, you'll get the full swag care package. So in that is going to be a hoodie, beanie, and a bunch of other cool goodies, as well as your deluxe patch. You'll get the advertising ping, again, in our social media, as well as, you'll get the advertising ping in our Discord, as well as a shout out to our all social media content. So essentially there's ways for you to contribute or donate just by sharing this presentation, this live stream, or GoFundMe is more than enough to help and support our project here. But if you really feel generous, then your contributions here will definitely help us get off the ground and create the best experience possible. Bryan and Brand, anything you guys want to add to this?
No.
So I got about 20 minutes or so to answer some questions here, and then we'll do the giveaway. So
Lucas is he's poking at my like one of our main weaknesses here. How are we gonna merge Milsim and Speedsoft players? Man, that is the challenge for Skirmesh. It's very different. Definitely built for Milsim, but there's guys. I don't know if you guys that are listening, if any of you guys are out in the Indiana area, but the guys at Shot Zone are looking at using it for their Speedsoft league that they just started up called SXL. So it used to be NSL, right? And then, you know, they've for whatever reason they've broken off and now they're doing their own thing, but SXL. And it definitely leverages some things that Skirmesh can help, they can benefit from Skirmesh and making the tournaments a little bit easier to run. But
NXL was the paintball, or is the paintball tournament stuff. So they're taking a spin-off of the paintball one, setting it up very similar to how the paintball tournaments run, and it's SXL. But NSL, as far as that tournament, that's still going. That's
okay.
Yeah. That's a separate.
It's interesting how they set it up though, because they do, instead of it just being rushing to the other side of the field effectively, they've got like they segment the field, so they've got like I don't know if it's in force or something similar to that, but they you got to like take over an area and you got to like walk it up, and then you're still sort of fighting over territory and control, but it's a much faster pace.
Yeah.
So
all right, let's answer some questions now. I only got about 15 minutes left.
Airsoft Dad's got a new one here. What made you guys want to open a field and take on all that responsibility?
Insanity.
That's a big part of it.
I blame the previous inbreeding in my genetic line. I don't know about you guys.
That might have something to do with it.
This question has come up a couple times. How much is insurance on an airsoft field? That's
a good question, but they actually do have airsoft specific insurance, which a lot of fields I've noticed don't even know about. I've talked to some field owners in the past, and they were complaining that one of their biggest costs was insurance. And I asked them like, what were they using? And they were using like a regular, like progressive, like people insurance, which is like way too expensive if you have to deal with personal injury and liability like that. So I was talking to the owner of CIA Tampa out in Tampa Bay, and he gave me the contact for the airsoft specific insurance, which is significantly cheaper. But it's kind of like Brandon's pricing, to where it's field to field specific, but it is affordable.
So PrimeTech has PrimeTech Customs. I'm not sure if you guys answered this earlier, but can contributions be made anonymously? So if somebody wants to contribute, but they don't want their name on a wall or name put out there or something, could they do that? And how would they?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if GoFundMe has the anonymous option. If they do, then that would be the way for that. If not, you could just private message me on any social media, and we can work out, whatever it is you wanted to contribute.
Do you have a separate page on your website built for all this information, like this kind of stuff coming up? And then,
right. So
do you have a pay now kind of, or contribute now kind of button?
Yeah, let me go to my website. So it's going to be on the main page. There's going to be this here. Just the GoFundMe. It's going to have what we have, our progress so far. You can either donate immediately, or you can click on it and it'll bring you to the GoFundMe page, which will show who. It'll show kind of a summary of what we talked about here today, as well as the breakdown on the donation tiers. Additionally, then, if you click on this link here, it'll bring you right to the presentation that I showed, those slides there.
Oh, okay. There you
So
go.
here, don't display my name publicly on the fundraiser.
Perfect. There you go, Prime Tech. You can. You can. The answer is yes. You can
Yes.
contribute anonymously. I didn't know GoFundMe had that. I'm glad you showed that. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Good to know.
I contributed to it too, just to make sure I could see what,
Oh, how it looked.
the
Yeah.
process. So right here,
Right.
I put my name in, so I'm gonna get my social media up there on the field.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, I'm sure it'll say someone or anonymous.
You're gonna put your name on your own field?
Well, I have to, so gotta
So,
follow the rules here.
so the young one asked, how do smaller fields actually make money? That might be, I don't know if Bryan, if you have insight there. I don't know that they do make money, to be honest.
Smaller
I've,
field?
Yeah, I think that in my experience of dealing with these different fields, setting up skirmish, there's a few unicorns, like maybe a couple in each state that actually are like really truly profitable, where they have like a really well-paid staff, and
Right.
the owners are really
I think that's the
able to
key,
live
what you
off of
just
it.
said. Well-paid staff. I think
Yeah.
the owner makes a profit, and the staff, I think what I've found talking with people, half the staff at some of these fields and stores, like indoor stuff,
Hmm.
are volunteers,
Yeah.
which was a whole discussion they had on one of the NSL tournaments with Caber. I don't know if you guys follow Caber.
Hmm.
He was one of the announcers, and they talked about that, where the refs are mostly volunteers, and they get worked to death because somebody doesn't show up, and because they're volunteers.
Hmm.
And it's happened numerous times. I've talked to people. They're like, they show up to the field. Ref's been there 15 hours without a break, and this is a big issue. In fact, one of the questions came up on the chat here about refs for your field. How are you going to? I forget what the question was. I can't find it right now, but it's basically, are you going to have good refs, and how are you going to administer that? Because there's a couple things I've heard of. Keenan that runs CSL. He has a ref school, like a refing school, or these teaching platforms he does,
Hmm.
or classes he runs for refs, and like refs got to be paid to have a good experience on the field, and they got to be taught the rules, like so that So
So
anyway,
yeah, let me go ahead and touch base on both those points. So in terms of field making money, fields don't really make money unless they have a strong retail option, right?
right,
Because that really is where the profit center is. The other side of it is rentals, right? There's a pretty decent profit center when it comes to rentals, because once you pay those off, right? Once you've paid off your initial investment, then it's all profit essentially. But labor is always your biggest cost. And the worst thing about it is it's sort of something that you can't really control, right? Like you can kind of control your utility costs, you can kind of control your product costs, like those types of things. But labor, if for example you have a situation where somebody calls out and now you're paying overtime to get somebody to cover that shift, right? Well, that just blew your budget out the water. But that's not a reason to not pay your refs, right? So touching on that point, the way that you have quality refs is you stay the hell away from volunteer refs. That I don't think that has any space in the professional airsoft field, right? That's one thing when a group of guys get together and they want to tag somebody as a rep, but to me that's just as bad as a real steel gun range having the first person that shows up as the RSO for the day. And I don't think that's the way to do it. And I've seen fields that do it that way, and I've seen the videos from those fields, and it's not something that I would want to run, and especially considering the problems that you get. So having that strong retail, what Jefe is doing with a strong online presence as well, those will help make up the differences for what the field lacks. And unless you're a field that can do all of that, then no, you don't really make a lot of money. like you said, there's a few unicorns out there. Location has a lot to do with it. But at the end of the day, you need that strong retail, and you need to pay your refs.
You need to be near a population center that is going to support reasonable traffic too, right? So,
and they need a disposable income.
I'll just shout out real quick to KDK Airsoft in Missouri. He was the first field to get on board with Skirmesh. So I got a special place for that. But just genuinely, like, the guy grinds, like he quit his job, put everything into the field. He puts all of his time into it. He's like constantly putting his profit back into it to just improve the facility, improve the gameplay, add fields. He started with just an indoor field. Now he's got two outdoor fields plus the indoor field. So he just keeps expanding. But man, the poor guy is just up against just a population limit, like it's in Missouri where there's like maybe 100,000 people within like a 50-mile radius, so it's just that makes it very hard, right? Because not everybody, you imagine, like, what percentage of the population is actually going to play Airsoft? Like 1%, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
So you really need those metropolitan areas that have, millions of people so that you can really traffic tens of thousands of people, unique players over the course of a year. Because if the best you can ever do is a couple of thousand, you're going to really be up against the wall in terms of like the availability for real revenue.
Absolutely. And even when you have, Tac City's in a fairly decent population zone, right? We're 20 minutes from Disneyland in Southern California. And there were days and there were nights where there was 3 people on the field and you could hear crickets. So imagine how much worse it is for, a location in a low populous area. So, again, I go with location. It has to be there. And you also have to be a field that can weather the course, right? The ebbs and the flows of business. Airsoft is seasonal, especially when you're talking about outdoor airsoft. Even in some places sunny as Florida, no one wants to be in an outdoor field during a hurricane, right? So, you got to be able to weather the course, and again, going back to the refs, you got to be able to pay your refs and have professional refs that. Just like refs are doing integrity checks out there on the field, we have to be checking the refs. You have to be making sure that they're doing their jobs, that they're staying off for phones, that they're keeping their eyes on the field, and work on de-escalation techniques too, right? Because again, we've talked about this, when the adrenaline's going and people are pumped up, that's not the time to be the ref god, right? Because that's just going to blow up in your face.
But listen, thank you guys. This has been fun. Definitely interesting as to what's coming up, and I feel like for a new field starting out, this is the way to do it, with Skirmesh, with somebody that's people that have experience on the retail side, on the business side, on the management side. You guys have a good thing going, and of course, the podcast part with getting the word out there. I will definitely, help spread the info out there for all you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Iraq.
Yeah, dude, it's been fun. And thank you everybody for joining the chat on my once in a lifetime, once in the past year, I guess, live stream.
Yeah,
spur of the moment.
I'm glad we did it. I thought it went really well.
All right,
guys,
thanks
I
everyone.
appreciate it, man. Everybody
Thanks,
have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
All right, see you guys.